You compare. You always have. Even before you had language for it, your eyes were scanning, not to see beauty, not to witness truth, but to measure, where do I stand? Who is better? Am I enough yet? This is not some personal flaw. It is a sickness woven into the human condition. And it's not just around you, it's in you. You don't just compare your success. You compare your sadness. You compare your body, your voice, your rest, your rage, your very worth. And in doing so, you vanish. Comparison is not competition. Competition ends. Comparison does not. It follows you into the shower, into the scrolling hours, past midnight, into the way you dress, the way you speak, the things you won't admit even to yourself. It's a mirror you never asked for, but keep looking into anyway, because it promises something. If you win, you'll matter. But what it really delivers is erosion. Comparison is subtle violence. You don't bleed. You dissolve. One scroll at a time, one forced smile at a time, one whispered, self-loathing behind someone else's success. You become an echo of what you think you should be until you can no longer hear your own voice. And the world claps for it. Because the world doesn't want your individuality. It wants your compliance. But here's the horror. Comparison feels rational. It feels like self-improvement. It feels like ambition. It wears the mask of goals, hustle, growth, and so you drink it day after day, not realizing it's poisoning your soul. You don't become better through comparison. You become smaller, not humbler, emptier. You begin to live in reaction to others, not from your own fire, but from their flame, not from your own rhythm, but from their applause. And one day, without ceremony, you wake up and realize you've spent your life becoming someone else's shadow. You want to be free? Stop drinking the poison. Stop using others as mirrors. Your reflection is not out there. It's not in their face, their followers, their fate. It's here, beneath the noise, beneath the urge to outshine. Yourself was never meant to compete. It was meant to burn alone, unmeasured, whole. Envy is the infection beneath the surface. Comparison is just its fever. But envy is the sickness. It's not admiration. It's not ambition. It's not even desire. It's hatred, not of the other, not really, but of yourself. Envy says, I don't want what they have. I want to stop being who I am. That's what burns. Not their success, your reflection in it. Not their beauty, your absence of it. Not their peace, your inner war. You do not envy from power. You envy from fracture, from the aching belief that something essential is missing in you, and the cruel illusion that someone else took it. There is a particular cruelty in how envy operates. It pretends to inspire. You tell yourself, they motivate me. But if you listen closely, there's rot underneath that sentence. You don't feel expanded by their presence. You feel diminished. You don't rise, you shrink. And worst of all, envy mimics clarity. It tells you, that's what I want. But it lies. Because you don't want their life. You want their freedom. You want their joy. You want their self-trust, not their career, their partner, their lifestyle. But you confuse the vessel for the essence. And so you chase shadows. Envy wears 1,000 faces. It looks like drive. It looks like critique. It even looks like friendship, the kind built on mutual insecurity, where no one's allowed to win. But inside, envy is grief. It is the mourning of your own unlived potential, projected onto someone who dared to live it. You don't hate them. You hate the part of you that stayed silent. That waited for permission. That forgot how to want without apology. This is why envy corrodes. Because it tells you your fire is not enough, that your rhythm is too slow, that your form is flawed not by accident, but by design. It makes you question not what you're doing, but who you are. And that is where identity begins to collapse. Not all at once, but quietly, subtly, day by day, as you trade your truth for someone else's costume. Envy cannot be cured by achievement. It cannot be solved by imitation. It can only dissolve when you stop asking who's ahead and start asking, where am I? Not in comparison, not in contrast, just in truth. The path back is not through envy's fire, it's through presence, and presence doesn't measure, it just is. When comparison wounds you enough times, you retreat, but not into stillness, not into reflection. You retreat into safety, and the safest place in a world obsessed with ranking? Mediocrity. Mediocrity is not failure. Failure means you tried. It means you cared enough to risk. But mediocrity, real mediocrity, is agreement. It's consent. It's saying, I'll keep my head down. I'll follow the template. I'll become digestible. Just leave me alone. And society rewards this. It claps for people who stay in their lane. It celebrates quiet obedience, cloaked as humility. It builds entire systems to protect those who never ask too many questions. You're told, don't be too much. Don't speak too boldly. Don't want too loudly. And slowly you comply. How it happens. At first, it looks like realism. You tell yourself, not everyone is meant to be extraordinary. It's okay to want a simple life. Who do I think I am anyway? But beneath that humility, there's a wound. The pain of believing that your individuality is too costly to reveal. So you water it down, you round your edges. You blur your brilliance not because you lack it, but because you fear what happens when it's seen. Mediocrity is the camouflage of the frightened soul. The lie of the middle path. We worship the middle, not because it's noble, but because it's invisible. You can hide there, in the office, in the relationship, in the spiritual community, where everyone speaks in affirmations, but no one tells the truth. It's safe, this middle. You won't be attacked, but you won't be remembered either. You become forgettable not because you lack substance, but because you buried it beneath acceptability. And here's the tragedy. You weren't born to be exceptional. You weren't born to be average either. You were born to be yourself, which is neither, which doesn't fit a graph, which cannot be replicated, and so cannot be ranked. But you gave that up not because you failed, but because you compared and recoiled. You saw that truth made others uncomfortable. You saw that uniqueness was lonely. You saw that originality doesn't come with a manual or an audience. And so you chose the padded comfort of mediocrity and called it peace. But it isn't peace, it's silence. A silence that screams when you're alone. The goal is not to be great. The goal is not to be better than anyone. The goal is to stop hiding, to stop accepting invisibility as a form of safety, to stop calling your shrinkage maturity, and to ask, honestly, where did I start pretending that comfort was enough? Because it isn't, not if it costs you yourself. You no longer need a person to compare yourself to. You have an entire machine, a platform, an algorithm, a scoreboard for the soul. Likes, views, followers, rankings, all whispering one thing. You are what they say you are, and you believe it. This is no longer casual comparison. This is engineered measurement, a system of mirrors designed not to reflect who you are, but to reflect what will sell. The louder you become, the more visible you are. The more visible you are, the more you're measured. The more you're measured, the more you edit yourself to win the numbers game. And the more you edit, the less you remain, until eventually you're not expressing anymore, you're performing, not living curating, not discovering optimizing, and somewhere in the quiet, your individuality dies. This is not connection. They told you it would connect us, that more visibility would mean more understanding, that more friends would mean less loneliness. But comparison, dressed up in metrics, is not connection, it's currency. You trade truth for reach. You trade nuance for clarity. You trade complexity for branding. And when everyone is performing, no one is seeing. What we call connection is often mutual projection. How the system traps you. You're praised when you share just enough to be relatable, but punished when you reveal something real that doesn't fit the trend. You're told to be authentic, but also professional. You're told to be honest, but also brand safe. You're told to just be yourself, but only if yourself converts. So you live with a foot on your own throat, speaking from a mask you've renamed personal growth. And the tragedy, it works. You'll gain followers. You'll gain respect. You'll gain metrics that prove your worth. But deep down, you know, it isn't you. When you compare, you forget. You forget your rhythm, your reasons, your truth. You start to believe that someone else's pace is your own, that someone else's values should be your guide, that someone else's applause means you're doing it right. And so you veer, not in a leap, but in a drift. A slow, almost imperceptible slide away from your axis, until you look up one day and realize, this life I'm living isn't mine. The metrics don't measure meaning. They never have. They never will. A million likes won't tell you who you are. A perfect résumé won't answer why you're here. 100 compliments won't fill the silence that follows when you turn the screen off. Because metrics don't measure truth. They measure trend. And truth rarely trends. Step away from the scoreboard. Delete the mirror they built for you. Not out of protest, but out of peace. Let your value be felt, not calculated. Let your voice be rough, not polished, and let your worth be invisible again, but real. At first, it's subtle. You adjust a little. You speak slightly differently around certain people. You edit your laughter. You soften your truth. You say yes when you mean maybe. It's not deception, it's survival. But soon, the adjustments compound, and you forget where the mask ends and your skin begins. You no longer know if your preferences are yours, if your values are yours, if your desires are yours or borrowed. Your opinions come pre-packaged now. Your voice has an accent that isn't native. Your posture, your habits, your beliefs, replicas of someone who seemed more together. And yet, you feel more fractured than ever, because every imitation, no matter how perfect, is a form of self-betrayal. And every act of self-betrayal, no matter how quiet, leaves a bruise beneath your personality. This is how individuality dies, not with a bang with a mimic. You start to live by default. You move as you've seen others move. You dream as you've been taught to dream. Until the life you live isn't wrong, it's just foreign. It's not yours. It never was. It was inherited, assembled, downloaded from a culture that never knew your name. And when you finally notice, it's not outrage you feel. It's grief. Grief for the person you might have been. If you hadn't spent so long looking sideways, the danger is this. You might succeed. You might build a beautiful life that fits you like a borrowed coat. You might be respected, admired, envied, but empty. Because your days are filled with echoes, not origin. With strategy, not selfhood. With curated alignment, not inner clarity. You may be loved, but not as you are. Only as you perform. And you'll feel it every time someone says, I love who you've become, and something inside you whispers, I've never shown you who I am. Individuality isn't glamorous. It's not a personal brand. It's not aesthetic. It's not about being different. It's about being whole. And wholeness isn't always impressive. It's inconsistent. It's strange. It's quiet. It doesn't sell well, but it feels right. Because it was born from within, and it doesn't need comparison to breathe. You don't need to invent yourself. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to stop performing who you never were. Let the borrowed identities rot. Let the expectations collapse. Let the versions of you that were built for applause fall silent. And from that rubble, something unpolished will rise. Not a persona, not a brand. Just you. No trumpets, no declarations, no glowing transformation to post about. Just this. You stop. You stop checking. You stop measuring. You stop turning every moment into a mirror. And in that pause, that holy refusal, the rebellion begins. It's a rebellion of subtraction. You begin to remove what does not belong to you. The clothes that never felt right. The opinions that were never yours. The work you did for praise. The relationships built on your silence. You shed, not to improve, not to evolve, just to return. To what? To the rhythm that was always there beneath comparison. The slow, odd, beautiful rhythm of your actual life. This is not comfortable. You will feel exposed, because comparison, as toxic as it is, gave you structure. It told you what to chase. It gave you milestones. It distracted you from the raw terror of not knowing what comes next. When you stop measuring yourself against others, you lose the chart. You're no longer winning. You're no longer failing. You're just being. And at first, that feels like floating in the dark. The world will misunderstand, because the world does not reward people who don't compete. They will call you lazy, detached, unambitious, irrelevant, because you've stopped playing the game, because you've stopped checking the score. But what they see as disinterest is actually intimacy with your own life, with your own breath, with your own way of moving through the day. You are not detached. You are reattached to something older than metrics, older than mirrors. Yourself. This is what resistance looks like. You write something and don't share it. You enjoy something and don't optimize it. You feel something and don't broadcast it. You live and let the moment pass unmeasured. Not everything you do needs to be witnessed. Not every joy needs to be justified. Not every decision needs to be explained. This is freedom, and it is quiet. The rebellion is not in shouting louder. It's in no longer shouting at all. It's in turning inward and hearing, maybe for the first time. This is what I love. This is what I need. This is what matters to me. No poll, no likes, no consensus, just truth. Raw, private, yours. Let no one lie to you. Truth has a price. and the price of living outside comparison is steep. You lose comfort, you lose context, you lose the metrics that used to hold your self-worth together. But worse, you lose belonging, because when you stop comparing, you stop needing, and when you stop needing, you stop participating in the unspoken contract of approval. And when you stop seeking approval, people no longer know how to relate to you. You become illegible. You're not competing. You're not chasing. You're not angry or proud. You're just still. And stillness terrifies people who've built their identity around movement. Your silence will be misread. They will call you distant, arrogant, cold, elitist, not because you are any of those things, but because your detachment from their game feels like judgment. You no longer compare, and they interpret that as superiority. You no longer explain, and they hear that as indifference. But you're not superior. You're not indifferent. You're just done. Done needing to win to feel valid. Done measuring your life against someone else's path. Done offering your soul to be ranked, liked, shared, dissected. You will miss the noise. You won't admit it at first, but there will be nights where you crave the feedback, where silence feels like punishment, where you question whether it was bravery or isolation, because comparison gives you company, even if that company is false. And solitude, real solitude, is not romantic. It is aching, it is heavy, it is raw space with no audience and no applause. And in that space, you meet yourself again. Not the ideal, not the version you curated, but the flawed, unfocused, unranked self beneath the performance. You will be forgotten, not by everyone, but by many, because when you stop competing, you stop being entertaining. When you stop optimizing your image, you fade from the feed. You are no longer relevant not because you lost, but because you opted out. And irrelevance, in a world addicted to visibility, feels like death, but it isn't. It's resurrection. You are dying only to what was never you. What you gain cannot be sold. It cannot be posted. It cannot be clapped for. It cannot be replicated. You gain time that is no longer consumed by measuring. You gain breath that no longer shortens in the face of comparison. You gain choices made from clarity, not fear. And most of all, you gain yourself, not the version they could understand, but the one that no longer needs to be explained. If you are brave enough to stop comparing, you will lose everything that was never truly yours. And what's left? You, unranked, unpolished, unshaped by their mirrors. And finally, free. This isn't a comeback. There is no montage, no spotlight, no sudden recognition. This is quieter than all that. You wake up one day and something feels different. Not lighter, truer. You look in the mirror, and for the first time in a long time, you don't flinch. You're not dazzled. You're not disgusted. You're just present, because what you see is no longer a performance. It's a person. Individuality doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream, "I'm different." It doesn't need a tagline, a brand, a statement. It just is. It walks into rooms without adjusting. It answers questions without rehearsing. It says no without shame and yes without fear. And not because it's fearless, but because it's done apologizing for existing. You will speak less, but say more. You will be slower, but more precise. You will appear to care less, and yet everything you do will come from depth. Because you're no longer performing strength. You are strong, not in a loud, polished way, but in the quiet confidence of someone who knows, I have nothing to prove. I'm not competing anymore. Others will notice quietly. They won't say it, but they will feel it. In your presence, in your unshakable calm, in the way you don't chase praise or flee judgment. Some will feel drawn to you. Others will leave, because nothing threatens the performative more than the real. When you no longer need their approval, you expose how much they still crave it. And that is uncomfortable, not for you, for them. Your life will simplify. You will own fewer things. You will speak to fewer people. You will chase fewer dreams. Not out of cynicism, but out of precision. Your life becomes an instrument, tuned to your values, played at your tempo, unafraid of being missed by those tuned to noise. This is not isolation, it is sovereignty, and it is sacred. You are not here to be better than anyone. You are not here to outperform. You are not here to be seen. You are here to be you, in a way that cannot be copied, packaged, or compared. And if that means being forgotten by the world, so be it. Better to be invisible in truth than adored in illusion. This is not a conclusion. It's a funeral, not of dreams, not of ambition, but of the part of you that needed to be more than someone else. To feel real, you mourn the self you built in mirrors, the one that rose and fell with someone else's win, the one that could only love itself when it was ahead. You bury that version, not with regret, but with relief, because now you are finally alone. Not lonely, alone in the way a tree is alone. Complete, uncompared, unrepeated. There is nothing to prove now. The mind still flickers. The old voice still tries. Are you sure you're not falling behind? What if you're just afraid to compete, but it doesn't land anymore? You don't need to win. You don't need to justify. You don't need to explain your piece, because your life is no longer built on their rubric. You've left the game, and the scoreboard can't find you anymore. The birth of self feels like nothing. No revelation, no applause, no cosmic voice saying, "You did it." Just this. A breath you didn't have to earn. A day that doesn't need to impress. A soul that fits you again. You don't feel special. You feel real. And that is more than enough. Comparison will not end the world. It will not destroy you in one sweeping gesture. It will keep you alive but empty, until you choose otherwise. Until you trade competition for congruence, exposure for solitude, noise for rhythm, and in that trade, you don't become greater, you become yourself. Finally, quietly, wholly, not above anyone, not behind anyone, just here, alive, unmeasured, free.